Hello, my name is Brendan Johnston, and I'm a PhD candidate in English literature here at UNR. I specialize in early 20th century poetry and fiction. It's a great honor to be a part of this virtual public domain concert series that's been sponsored by the Knowledge Center and the College of Liberal Arts. Today, I've been asked to introduce and read from E.M. Forster's most famous novel, A Passage to India, which was published in 1924 and now, thankfully, is a work of the public domain. I hope you enjoy it. Edward Morgan Forster is quite a looming figure in early 20th century British literature, but his novels are also transitional between literary periods and styles. They have a foot in the Edwardian and even Victorian conventions of novel writing, with linear plots and rich character interiority, but they also anticipate aspects of a more modernist, experimental style and subject matter. Many of his novels occur primarily in British settings, but Passage is set almost exclusively on the Indian subcontinent. In 1924, it was the last novel that he published in his lifetime, though he spent much of the rest of his life as an influential literary and cultural critic, both in England and throughout the world. Many of the themes in Forster's novels deal with issues of class, cultural difference, the strong undercurrents of sexuality, and they often deal with conflicts between tradition and the rapid approach of a global modernity. This novel is certainly no exception. The first draft of the novel was written in 1913 and 14, but it was later heavily revised and finally published in 1924. The final version of the story is actually much more opaque and leaves many more questions about the central events than in the original draft. It is based on Forster's time in India and some of his relationships with the people, especially a young Indian Muslim named Syed Ross Massoud, whom Forster first met in England and later visited during his first trip to India. The novel itself is dedicated to Massoud. Formally, the novel follows many of the conventions of the 19th century British novel, though some of the more descriptive passages suggest a kind of impressionism or even mystical exteriority to the events that transpire. These descriptive passages occur particularly at the opening of each of the three sections of the novel, divided into mosque, caves, and temple, each of which has its own focus and sub-themes. There is also a giant hole or mystery in the middle of the novel, one which occupies the thoughts and actions of the characters the rest of the story, but is never directly solved or finally answered. There is a central incident that happens at the Marabar Caves in the middle of the story, which becomes a focal point of intercultural strife. It is a mystery and a muddle that never clearly gets resolved, and the incident is interpreted quite differently by the British and Indian characters in the novel. Forster also takes time in the story to critique some of the more racist and narrow-minded perceptions towards India. This move was actually considered quite progressive and even controversial when the novel was first published. But looking back now, even some of the novel's most sympathetic British characters, like Cyril Fielding and Mrs. Moore, while they are critical about some of the negative effects of British imperialism, they still maintain exoticized perceptions of the people and culture, which many critics, such as Edward Said, have attributed to Forster's own positionality. Still, Passage offers a very nuanced portrait of India from a knowledgeable, empathetic, though still very British perspective. Forster is critical of the enduring damage done by the British occupation, but also finally, and very intentionally, unwilling to make a clear judgment on the question. Yet despite the novel's cultural shortcomings, Forster was largely beloved and even celebrated by many rising novelists of a decolonizing India, such as Mulk Raj Anand. The passage which I'll be reading from occurs at the very end of the novel, and it takes up the original question raised at the story's opening. Is it possible for an Indian to be friends with an Englishman? This is the final reunion and farewell between Mr. Fielding and Dr. Aziz. The passage also anticipates the post-colonial future of India and how it will eventually rise up and overthrow the British Raj. Yet it also shows the tender affection, but also the residual differences that separate the two central characters. While there are other passages that are more descriptively sumptuous, and other sections of dialogue and character interiority that perhaps better demonstrate Forster's mastery of the novel form, this passage is perfect, I think, in that it sums up the central themes of the novel, as well as centralizing the very deep affection and even desire between the novel's two protagonists. While I'm reading from the very last passage, don't worry, I've left the mystery and the muddle that makes up the heart of this novel for you to decipher on your own. I hope you take the time to enjoy the now unfettered access we have to this amazing work. A Passage to India by Edward Morgan Forster. Aziz grew more excited. He rose in his stirrups and pulled at his horse's head in the hope it would rear. Then he should feel in a battle. He cried, "Clear out, all you turtons and burdens. We wanted to know you 10 years back. Now it's too late. If we see you and sit on your committees, it's for political reasons. Don't you make any mistake." His horse did rear. Clear out, I say. Why are we put to so much suffering? We used to blame you. Now we blame ourselves. We grow wiser. Until England is in difficulties, we keep silent. But in the next European war, aha, then is our time. He paused, and the scenery, though it smiled, fell like a gravestone on any human hope. They cantered past a temple to Hanuman. God so loved the world that he took monkey's flesh upon him, and past a Saivite temple, which invited to lust, but under the semblance of eternity, its obscenities bearing no relation to those of our flesh and blood. They splashed through butterflies and frogs. Great trees with leaves like plates rose among the brushwood. The divisions of daily life were returning. The shrine had almost shut. Who do you want instead of the English? The Japanese? Jeered Fielding, drawing rein. No, the Afghans, my own ancestors. Oh, your Hindu friends will like that, won't they? It will be arranged, a conference of Oriental statesmen. It will indeed be arranged. Old story of we will rob every man and rape every woman from Peshawar to Calcutta, I suppose, which you'll get some nobody to repeat and then quote every week in the Pioneer in order to frighten us into retaining you. We know. Still, he couldn't quite fit in Afghans at Mao, and finding he was in a corner, made his horse rear again until he remembered that he had, or ought to have, a motherland. Then he shouted, "India shall be a nation, no foreigners of any sort. Hindu and Muslim and Sikh and all shall be one. Hurrah! Hurrah for India! Hurrah! Hurrah!" India a nation. What an apotheosis! Last comer to the drab 19th century sisterhood, waddling in at this hour of the world to take her seat. She whose only peer was the Holy Roman Empire. She shall rank with Guatemala and Belgium, perhaps, Fielding mocked again. And Aziz, in an awful rage, danced this way and that, not knowing what to do, and cried, "Down with the English anyhow, that's certain. Clear out, you fellows, double quick, I say. We may hate each other, but we hate you most. And if I don't make you go, Ahmed will, Karim will. If it's 5,500 years, we shall get rid of you. Yes, we shall drive every blasted Englishman into the sea, and then," he rode against him furiously, "and then," he concluded, half kissing him, "you and I shall be friends." "Why can't we be friends now?" said the other, holding him affectionately. "It's what I want. It's what you want." But the horses didn't want it. They swerved apart. The earth didn't want it, sending up rocks through which riders must pass single file. The temples, the tank, the jail, the palace, the birds, the carrion, the guest house that came into view as they issued from the gap and saw Mao beneath, they didn't want it. They said in their 100 voices, "No, not yet." And the sky said, "No, not there."